JJ and I talked about this a bunch. Do you guys think, Corona aside, do you guys think that the media needs to be in the locker room?
Yes.
Yes.
I do.
Why?
I take it from a fan perspective, and everything I say is or at least a lot of times is tongue in cheek. And I don't, we kind of joke about journalism and sports reporters taking things too seriously and like no cheering in the press box. But I do think there's something to be said for guys that are on the beat, that are with a team, that get the ebbs and flows of a season that you cannot get by just watching the game on TV and not talking to these guys every day. And there's a story to every team, every season that would get missed if you didn't have reporters being able to interact on that level. And I think a lot of times it's not the press scrum that you're thinking in your mind. It's probably, and JJ, you can speak to it, there's probably reporters who know like, hey, I can go up to JJ once a month and get like a good insight on where the team's at. And he'll give it to me. Maybe he'll speak on the background or whatever. But that job and having those beat reporters be able to get like the heartbeat of a team, I think is something you cannot get from 10,000 feet.
Yeah, I think there's a way to get that stuff without actually physically being in the locker room, though. Here's the one.
But you said yes, though, right?
He said they should be in the.
I said they should be. Yeah.
No, I'm saying I don't think
they shouldn't.
I don't think they should be.
Okay.
Let me give you an example, like just the most blatant one to me. So typically, teams have shoot around at home and on the road. Not every team does. Some teams have completely done away with it. So for the teams that do have it, you have media availability either before or after shoot around. So at 75 or whatever on the countdown clock, pregame, there's like a 30-minute window where the media gets to come in the locker room. I don't understand why they're in the locker room during that time. That's the time before the game is the time where I'm like, it's just intrusive. And like, I know with Philly and here in New Orleans, there's not a place for us to go, like as players, that is our space. There's not like a players lounge or something like that. So you're like hiding in closets, or you're hiding in a bathroom stall, or you're just like, where can I go where I can just put my headphones on and not be bothered, or read my book or whatever? I don't know. I just think that space pregame is the most sacred space to me. Postgame, whatever. We can figure it out. But
I was talking more postgame. So that makes
Brian,
sense.
What do you think?
Pregame, yeah.
I think there's an old-timey baseball element to this, where the guys are just around it forever and in the locker room. If I were an athlete, it would bother me. Chris Long and I have talked about this a lot. I still think it's kind of weird. Like I remember being, and again, I've never been a beat guy. I've never had to do that. I don't envy those guys having to be at the arena, especially in baseball, at the stadium every single day. You're talking like 7+ months every day. That's what you're doing. And I was in there a few times just to see what it was like when I was living up in Boston. And it was kind of weird for a radio guy to even be in there at the beginning. But, Veritek is pulling down dirty compression shorts, right in front of us, surrounded by 10 people. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, this is weird to me. And, we could get into, violation of like, what should my rights be as a person just because I'm an athlete and you have access to me. But I would fear, like, I'm with you, JJ, that it feels like, especially before tip, like, can we let our minds get right here and just be about a team and have everybody be out of here? I would agree with that. But I think if you were to eliminate it, because I know some people think it's completely unnecessary, and I understand like athletes against media. And if I were a player, I probably wouldn't love a lot of the media guys. I don't like a lot of them now, and I'm in it. But if you were to say no more access here, or to have some neutral room, which we both know, JJ, no players would ever go in the neutral room. You just wouldn't go in there. Yeah. I'm afraid that, this is really important. And a lot of people, millions of people care about the outcomes of these games. They care about you as players. Millions of people everywhere that are the reason why everybody makes all this money, or I even make money because people are interested in just people's opinions on it. I'd be afraid that there would be a loss of some connection there if all access were completely eliminated.
Sure. I think that makes sense. And I would co-sign the idea that we should not eliminate all access to a locker room. You brought up that Veritek story. that's part of the thing with pregame that drives me crazy is so they bring in, especially or for the nationally televised game, the ESPN truck, TNT guys, whatever, those camera guys are in the locker room during this media availability and they're filming you while you're getting dressed. Now I know they're not going to put that on TV, but there's a fucking B-roll that exists of that. There's people in the truck. Like, why are you filming me putting my tights on? Do you really need to know how I tie my shoes? That feels a little weird to me. Don't you think there's a way to?
I don't know what the argument against that is. Go ahead, Tommy.
Don't you think there's a way to do this almost how they do it in like the White House briefing room, where there are 6 reporters that are in there and that's it? You know what I mean? Where it's like, take Chicago for example. Like Casey Johnson, I don't know where he writes now, but he wrote for the Tribune for years. He's clearly a great reporter and is like a resource for Bulls fans, and they want him to have access not just to the best players in the team, but to the whole team, because he will get information that no one else is getting. So like, I don't think anyone would argue that KC should be in the locker room. I think the problem is, why are there, camera guys aside, why are there 50 people in here that I've never seen before, that you've never heard of?
I would also if you did say that, you're eliminating so many other people's access. So then it like puts other places at a total disadvantage. Like, oh, hey, it's been 2 weeks since I've had locker room access. I don't know.
And the teams can decide, and the teams can
This is maybe just a perception, and maybe this is not based on any reality, but it does feel like after a regular season game that there are way more people now in the locker room than there were, I don't know, like 10 years ago. There are more people, it seems like, that are able to get access. And I don't know if they're
right, by the way.
Limits of that.
No, I'll just tell you what it is. Is back in the day, you knew what the 2 newspapers were in a major city. You had probably the place that covered the games and probably some other sports network. I'm thinking Chicago, New York, Boston had 2 and all those things. But I remember, in the times where I would have like the access pass where I would just go to Celtics games, and if I didn't have tickets, that they would just be like, hey, we got you a media pass. You're going to sit with some scouts or whatever. And then I'd be sitting to like the 7 guys that had new Celtics blogs. And you could tell that like this was this thing for them, like, holy shit, I can't believe somebody actually gave me a credential to this. And I think the team was trying to do the right thing. Like they didn't feel like they were discriminating against anybody, but it's so wide now, right? It's so wide of like, what are we supposed to do? And this isn't like an anti-blog thing at all, but it's just a reality of like paying attention to how many different people could make a good argument for print coverage of what was going on, and they would have to credential them. So you're right. There's way more people around it now than ever before.